Good day, folks, and welcome back to Ed's Garage at Bannister Hyundai. Today we are looking at the 2024 Hyundai Ioniq 5. This is in the preferred trim with the all-wheel drive. So this, of course, is the dual motor variant and the lower trim of the dual motor variant. This one has quite a few features. It doesn't have all the features though. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the features that this particular trim level has, and yeah, show you everything about the car. So with the dual motor, this guy is 320 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers or 0 to 60 miles an hour in about 5 seconds. So very, very powerful. Lots of pickup when you mat the throttle, or well, accelerator pedal. Now, what's cool about the Ioniq 5, this vehicle actually in 2022 won World Car of the Year, World EV of the Year, and World Design Award of the Year. So if you haven't heard about the Ioniq 5, chances are you've been sleeping under a rock, because this is a very, very, very popular vehicle. We can't keep these in stock. We're not getting a whole lot of them this year because Canada's a pretty small market, but pretty much every single one of these is already earmarked for a client. So anyway, let's start at the front. We'll move our way to the back. We'll check out the inside. We'll look under the hood, etc. But yeah, starting at the front, you can see we have those really cool rectangular squared off headlights. Now it is, of course, LED headlights and LED high beams. Now in the preferred trim, they are a reflector style, not a projector style. You got all these cool little pixels all around there. And one thing about the Ioniq series is that they're all about pixels. You'll find pixels all over the place. And then one thing you'll notice down here is these little retractable flaps. They basically will open up anytime the battery needs some extra cooling. On the hood here, we have a relatively flush Hyundai badge, not quite as flush as some of the new ones we've seen. And then, of course, we have the forward-facing camera in the windshield there for the autonomous braking, lane keep assistance, pedestrian detection, etc. There's also, behind this black plastic, there's also a forward-facing radar, because this vehicle is also equipped with adaptive cruise control. Now, if you're wondering about the range of this vehicle, it's about 414 kilometers on average. So less in the winter, more in the summer, of course. But it does have a heat pump system, a really, really good heat pump system that not only controls the HVAC, but also the battery temperature management. So heating and cooling of the interior and the battery is very, very efficient, comparatively speaking, to some other EVs. Now, if you're looking for more range, you could opt for the rear-wheel drive model. Yes, that's right. It's a rear-wheel drive, not a front-wheel drive model, for a total of about 488 kilometers of range on average, which is really, really good. As far as efficiency goes, they're pretty good. They're not the best in class. They're certainly not the worst in class. Obviously, the Hyundai Ioniq 6 is an efficiency king. The Ioniq 5 is just pretty good. All right, wrapping around to the side of the Ioniq 5, you'll see we have 235, 55, 19-inch wheels. Of course, the range topper, the Ultimate, has 20-inch wheels, but these are a 19-inch, so they're pretty big still. Reasonably neat looking, kind of like a flower, and it is wrapped in Michelin tires. They are a EV-specific tire, so they do have that sort of layer of foam on the inside and a low rolling resistance. Walking back a little bit further, you can see we've got the marker lights on the mirrors, and those are pixels as well. And in the mirrors, you have a blind spot monitoring icon there. The handles actually fold themselves in and out automatically, so that as you approach the vehicle, as long as you have the key with you, you can just reach up and grab the door handle. You don't have to unlock the doors first. And then, of course, when you lock the doors, they fold back in. Coming around to the back, we see on the right side here, the charge door. Now, this one does have the CCS fast charging, of course, and of course, 800 volt architecture. So you got your regular level 1, level 2, and then the CCS port down below here. And keep in mind that coming soon, we'll be able to actually use Tesla charging stations. Guys, sorry about the wind noise. It's suddenly very blustery. Yeah, we'll be able to use Tesla charging stations. So we'll have access to all the CCS stations as well as Tesla charging stations. So really, really easy access to charging and very, very fast charging. If you are on a, that is cold. If you're on a 300 kilowatt charger, well, a 200 kilowatt hour charger or faster, you'll be able to charge this from 5 to 80% in under 20 minutes in most cases. So very, very quick charging. Now you do, of course, have the level here. So 0 to 25%, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, and 75 to 100%. And then the little button to close the door right there. Now, a lot of people wonder what this little icon is here. This is essentially where you would push to open this flap. And what it does is it just transfers that push to this button. So essentially, this button does both things. It opens and closes it. Wrapping around to the back, you can see we've got the really cool sort of pixel tail lights. Now, don't worry, they don't flash like that in real life. Also on the back here, we have the sensors. Of course, it does have backup sensors, and of course, that really cool Ionic 5 badge there. And unfortunately, still no windshield wiper back here, or window wiper back here. They are going to be putting it on the N model, but they stick it right here. And they still don't have it on here. So maybe for 2025, they'll finally include the rear wiper. Anyway, let's have a look in the trunk here. Now, as long as you have the key with you, you can open up the trunk. You don't have to unlock the doors first. But we're going to look at the trunk first, and then we'll look at the frunk afterwards. So very, very big trunk space here, lots of room. Obviously, if you're comparing this to the Ioniq 6, you got a way more space in here. And even on the all-wheel drive model, you do actually have a little bit of extra storage under the floor here as well. Now, there's nothing underneath this carpet. It's just, let's see if I can lift that for you here. It's just bare metal, but insulated pad here, which is nice to reduce a little bit of road noise. So you got your regular level 1 charger here, tire mobility kit, and there's even a cargo net that it comes with. This is not something that comes with it stock, but it's just a cargo tray you can get. You got a 12-volt port there, some lighting here, and of course, you know, a couple of hooks on the 60/40 split rear bench. Speaking of the rear bench, when you fold it down, it is a pretty smooth transition from the floor of the trunk to the floor of the back seat, or at least the back of the back seat. So loading in larger items is quite easy. And of course, those seats do recline, which I'll show you momentarily. There's also spots here for a privacy cover, and there's 2 locations because of the fact that those seats recline so much. And then the privacy cover just hooks onto here. No power tailgate in this particular trim level. That would be on the next trim level up. So basically, to close it, we need to do a manual pull. All right, let's have a look at the frunk. Whew, it is very windy. Again, I apologize for any wind noise. So to open up the frunk, we're basically going to pull the hood release right here and then go around to the front. Now, one thing I want to point out before I open this, you'll notice the hood actually is connected to the top of the fender. This hood alone is very difficult to stamp. So Hyundai, being one of the only companies that manufactures their own steel, they can do stuff like that even on lower priced vehicles. I know this isn't a very low priced vehicle, it's electric, but that is something to consider. So when companies save money, they don't generally do things like that. Do a single stamped hood with no bit in the front here and no covering on the fenders. It's all one piece, so that's something to keep in mind. Underneath here, you have a little bit of storage. Now, keep in mind, the reason that Hyundai doesn't have a large front trunk is because they've actually taken the motor and the inverter and stacked them vertically so that you have a lot of room in the cabin. More legroom in the cabin is honestly more important than having a big trunk, so a big frunk. So that's why you'll see a smaller frunk in there. Unfortunately, the rear-wheel drive models don't get the bigger frunk either, because in order to have a bigger frunk, you do need to have a safety release mechanism in the front trunk in Canada and the United States. So rather than waste the money on that, they just give you a smaller one. So if you do buy a rear-wheel drive model, Ioniq 5, consider buying yourself a bigger frunk from Korea or from Europe and having it shipped over. Gives you a little bit of extra storage. But for those who don't need it, it's not a big deal. Anyway, also under here to note, we have lots of insulation underneath the hood, and then of course there is some insulation in the firewall there as well. So it's a very, very quiet vehicle, and it rides really nice as well. All right, we're gonna go ahead and jump into the back seat now. Just wanted to show you, this actually locks in. So when you put the seat down, it locks so that it doesn't bounce if you're going over big bumps. So that's kind of nice. And then you can just lift it up with one hand, just like that. And you'll notice it goes up into a very, very 90-degree angle there. And that's because if you do have a dog or something in the back and you don't have anybody sitting here, you can use this as a nice barrier. But check this out. If I recline the seat, look at how far it goes. It goes all the way back there. And, you know, I have a ton of room here, but I can actually grab the seat and move it forward for a little bit extra cargo space in back. So these seats, they slide forwards and backwards quite a bit, and the backrest really, really reclines. And one thing that they did really, really well on the Ioniq brand was these door handles. Check this out. So this actually stretches all the way from the front to the back part of the door. So you can literally grab this anywhere along the way. Now, you might be thinking, oh, that's kind of pointless, but here's where it actually makes a lot of sense. If you're really short, you might not be able to grab the handle if it's way over here without leaning right out of the car. So you can kind of start here, pull it in a little bit, and then grab it in. Now, the other thing that I found is when you go to open the door, if the wind catches it, you're going to be able to quickly grab that handle very easily. I've noticed this a couple times in other cars where I get out and the wind is grabbing the door, and I actually have to consciously think about where the door handle is because there's only a small, 6-inch gap or wherever I can put my hand. So this actually makes a ton of sense. I don't think that they actually, even thought of that when they were making it, but it definitely helps. There is also a storage compartment down here as well, so a good spot for a bottle, small bottle, and then a little bit there, maybe to put a phone or whatnot. In the B pillar, you can see we have the nice little vent there, which we can open and close. We have solid seat backs on both of the front seats, and of course they both have cargo nets. Sorry about the glare there, guys, it's a bit sunny today. We have 2 USB-A ports and then a little bit of storage down here. So they still haven't upgraded these to USB-C, unfortunately. But that's okay, everybody's got USB-A. No folding cup holder armrest in this one either, so that's going to be reserved to the top trim. We do have LED interior lighting though, so that's good to see. That one's been left on for some reason. And grab handles in all 4 corners. But that is pretty much it to talk about back here. I mean, other than the fact that I have a ton of space. I'm 6'2". This seat is where I would drive. You can see I've got like 5 inches in front of my legs here and a good 4 inches above my head. So there is a boatload of room in here, but that's one of the things that makes the Ioniq brand so good. I know it's not a brand, but it's kind of a sub-brand within Hyundai. But both the Ioniq 5 and the 6, and of course the upcoming 7, T7 and T10 are all going to have great interiors, great range, and great charging. So let's check out the front and go over some of those features next. All right, just wanted to show you the key fob here as well. So we've got lock, unlock. We can remote open the charging door by holding that, and then we can remote start the car as well. And the nice thing about the remote start is that when you get into the car, it will actually recognize that you're in the car. You put your foot on the brake and it'll come to life. Now, it didn't do it there because the door hasn't actually been opened. So let me do that again here. I'm gonna remote start. Okay, partially the car is on. I'm gonna now open the door, close the door like I just got in, and boom, there we go, it just turned on. So I didn't have to press the start button a second time. Okay, so let's start on the left, make our way to the right. So first off, I want to talk about these seats. They are a very, very comfortable seat. That's one thing they did spectacularly well on the Ioniq 5. So we have a manual passenger seat on this trim level and a power driver seat. Now the power driver seat, as you can see, we do have height adjustment, tilt adjustment, forwards and backwards, of course, and then the backrest and 2-way lower back support. On the passenger side, despite it being manual, it does still actually have height adjustment. So there's a little handle there that you can repeatedly press up or pull down. Also on these doors, we have the full length handle grip. And of course we have the child safety lock, windows, mirror controls there. Pretty straightforward stuff. In the top left corner here, you can see we have a tweeter. This one does not have the enhanced audio system, but it does still have tweets and 6 speakers. So it's a reasonably decent audio system on this one as well. On the far left side here of the dash, you can see we have the dimmer switch, traction and stability control, the auto hold button, and then our automatic e-brake that will set itself automatically and turn itself off automatically. On the steering wheel, you can see we have our handle here for tilt and telescopic steering, so you can move that anywhere you need it to, and then just pop that handle back up. On the left stock, we have our signal. Now this one does have momentary signal, so if you tap it, it will flash 5 times, 7 times, or 3 times, depending on how you have it set. We do have automatic headlights and automatic high beams as well. On the right stock, we have just a regular windshield wiper washer stock, nothing too special there. Looking at the steering wheel, you can see all of these buttons here are actually connected to the infotainment screen. So nothing here controls anything there. This is all just for the infotainment screen. And on that, we have our voice recognition. Mode is where music is coming from. Volume up, volume down is also a mute button. Next song, previous song, also next track, previous track. Next preset, previous preset, answer button, and then a customizable button. I like to set that to the home screen, and what I mean by that is you can actually choose what you want that button to do. So we're going to put it on home because there's no home button anywhere along here. So now we have a quick way of returning to the home screen. And then on the button below that, this is not a knob. You can't turn this. It's solid. This is just a button. When we press that, you can see it goes into our different drive modes. So we have Eco, Normal, and Sport. And if we hold that button down, it puts it into Snow mode. So the difference basically being in Eco mode, you don't have access to all the power of the system. As a matter of fact, it tries to keep you in rear-wheel drive as much as possible, only putting it into all-wheel drive under acceleration or when your rear-wheel drives are slipping a little bit, rear wheels. And you'll also notice the range difference. Currently it's at 443 kilometers of expected range at 98%. That is just a guess though, as with any EV, it's just a guessometer, right? So if I hit the drive mode button again, you'll see that range drops a little bit because it knows it's going to use a little more power now. So now we're in normal mode, and then sport mode. So sport mode is going to use all the power it has available. It reduces the range a little bit. It also tightens up the steering wheel. Now, the other things that normal and sport do by default is they actually will put the climate control into a normal system, normal energy consumption climate control. Eco will actually put it into a reduced energy consumption climate control, which honestly I have found has been quite sufficient. If we hold that button and put it into snow mode, essentially what that's going to do is it's going to force it into a more sort of full-time all-wheel drive, but it's also going to limit the acceleration power and increase the aggressiveness of the traction and stability control systems. All right, on the back side of the steering wheel here, you can see we have our paddles for regeneration. So there's one on both sides. The left one will increase your regeneration level and the right side will decrease your regeneration level. So if I put the vehicle into drive, here we go, you can see in the bottom left corner of the screen there, we're currently in level 1. If I pull that left paddle, there's level 2, level 3, and then I pedal, which is your one pedal driving. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with regenerative braking or one-pedal driving, essentially what it means is when you lift off the accelerator, the car is going to slow down. Level 1, it's going to slow down a tiny bit. It's going to feel kind of like a regular sort of automatic vehicle. Level 2, equate that to kind of like gearing down in a manual transmission. Level 3, it's going to feel like somebody else is pushing your brakes and slowing you down. And then I-pedal is going to be a little bit stronger than that even, but it's also going to bring the car to a complete stop. So level 1, 2, and 3 will slow down, get to about 10 kilometers an hour, and then kind of creep along, whereas I-pedal will really bring it to a complete stop. So the nice thing about it is that it reduces the movement of your foot from one pedal to another. I-pedal does tend to use a tiny bit more energy only because it's constantly keeping both electric motors in, it's keeping them both active, unless you're on cruise control, in which case then it kind of tapers off and just goes rear-wheel drive anyway. But it does gain back the most amount of energy when you let off the accelerator. So there's a lot of arguments for and against using it. Personally, I like using it because it's just more convenient, and I think the savings of not using it and using Coast or whatever is not enough to make me really worry about it. Anyway, having a look at the rest of the steering wheel, you can see we've got the little 4 dots on here. That's the 4 pixels that represent the letter H in Morse code. 4 dots. And then on the right hand side, we have the controls for cruise. So we have set speed and turn on cruise. And then this would also be a set speed depending on whether or not the cruise control was currently active or not. So you do initially press this button to turn it on and then set your initial speed. And then this will increase it, decrease it, or set it if you have turned it off or if you've paused it. This is also your pause and resume. And then you have your distance adjustment here. So this is your adaptive control distance adjustments, which basically will be represented right here on the screen by a little picture of a car with either 1, 2, 3, or 4 blue boxes in front of it. If you're on this particular screen, so if you're not on, for instance, one of the other ones here, if I just bump it over, if you're on anything but this screen, you wouldn't see this. But if you're on this screen, you actually have the little blue boxes right here as well. And then we have our OK button and our control for that center screen, which we're going to go back into in a moment. So these 2 buttons kind of go through the different menus there. We have our lane centering button here. So this will, when you turn this on, by default it's not on, so you have to turn it on when you want to use it. But basically what that does is it tries to keep the vehicle positioned perfectly in the center of the lane. It doesn't work everywhere, so you do need to keep your hands on the wheel, but it just kind of helps you steer. There is also lane keep assistance, which is represented by this little icon right here on the screen, which, by the way, if you hold this button, you can also disable that. So there we go. Now that's gone, but lane centering is still on. So if I hold this button again, we can turn that back on. There we go. So that basically, the lane keep assist will basically pinball off the lines, trying to keep you on the road, but it's not keeping you centered. And then the other one here, the little steering wheel icon, that's where it's trying to keep you centered. So that's the difference between those two things. And then lastly, on the steering column, we have the shifter stock. So this, of course, is your drive, neutral, reverse, park. And to use it, basically, you just rotate this column. So if you rotate it like that, you can see now we're in drive. We rotate it back. Part way it goes into neutral, but all the way it goes into reverse. And then if we want to put it into park, we simply press the end of the stock and there's park. And keep in mind, anytime you adjust that, it does show you on the screen here as well which gear you're actually putting it into. It all represents that right there. So pretty easy to figure out. And even though a lot of people are leery about using it at first, I'll say this: once you're used to it, it really doesn't matter what type of shifter you have. Once you get used to it, it just becomes natural. It's not a big deal. It's very quick, very easy to use. And then when you jump into another car, it's weird. So this is actually not a big deal. Okay, looking at the center console. This one does not have the movable center console. For that, you need to have the top trim. However, it does have center console storage here. And you can raise this entire thing up as well if you're trying to get down to the stuff down there. Speaking of down there, as you can see, we do have a couple more USB-A ports. So just 2 charging ports, and then there's a spot for phones here or whatever. One weird thing that they did was they put the USB port over here for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And then there's another spot right there. But it's quite the stretch to get to that. So what I would recommend is have a cable in the car that you can just leave plugged in and maybe just wrap it around the center console or something, just so you're not constantly having to go way down there. Because to show you what I mean, as you can see, it's quite the stretch. If you're elderly, maybe you have mobility issues or whatever, that might be a little annoying to get to. But I do have a solution for you. If you don't want to use wired CarPlay and wired Android Auto, there is actually some really cool products on the market that will take your wired connection and make it wireless. I recently reviewed one by a company called Link iFun. It's called the GT6 Android AI box, and it provides both wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and it also allows you to watch Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video, anything you can think of on your infotainment screen. And as a matter of fact, you can also even play games on your infotainment screen. Heck, you could even Bluetooth connect a Xbox controller or keyboard and mouse or whatever you want. Any Android app that you can think of will work on it. It runs Android 12. And it's awesome. It allows you to do so much more with your infotainment system. Now, what that's really great for is if you're charging your car, if you're somewhere that has a slower charger, you need to sit there for half an hour and you need something to do, well, now you can actually put, something on the screen here and do that while you're waiting for a charge. It's an awesome product. It's not terribly expensive. Check the description of this video. I will put a link in the description, and you can save 15% off with my coupon code is Ed's Garage. So check that out. That'll also be in the description below. All right, moving on. So above that, of course, we have the cup holders here. Nothing really to talk about there. Pretty simple cup holders. And above the whole console, of course, we have the climate control. So this is dual zone automatic climate control. Really, really easy to use. You have different levels for the automatic system, which is nice. So if you don't want the system to be quite aggressive, you can drop this auto system down from 3, 2 to 1. Dual zone, as I mentioned, so the temperature's on the outsides there. It has automatic recirculate, so if you use the windshield washer fluid, as I just did, you can see it's just automatically turned on the recirculate so we don't have to smell the washer fluid. What's nice about it, though, is that not only will it do that when you use the recirculate, or when you use the washer fluid, but it also do it when you go through a tunnel, so you don't have to smell the tunnel. Super cool. Aside from that, not much else to talk about. It does have, of course, automatic defrost as well, but there is, of course, your defrost button there, and your rear defrost and side mirror defrost is also included in that button. The only other two things to mention here is we have a climate button right here that takes us to the climate control screen. assuming it isn't up already like it was just a moment ago. And then below that we have the warmer button, which of course takes you to where you can turn on your heated seats for driver and passenger, and then of course the heated steering wheel. However, if you don't want to have to press those buttons, you can do these things by voice. Check this out. Hit the voice recognition. Turn on the heated steering wheel.
Turning on the heated steering wheel.
Driver's seat warmer to level 3.
Setting the driver's seat warmer to level 3.
Increase the temperature.
Setting the temperature to 25 degrees.
Decrease the temperature.
Setting the temperature to 21 degrees.
Open the charging door.
Opening the charging port door.
Close the charging door.
Closing the charging port door.
How cool is that? So those are just some of the examples of things that you can say into the voice recognition so you don't have to find buttons. Works pretty good. Anyway, moving on. So I want to show you what is in this instrument cluster screen. So first off, on the top left, you can see we have our current speed. On the right side, we have our current range until empty, currently showing 429 kilometers. And on the bottom left, you can see we have our percentage of battery, current regeneration level, what drive mode we're in, the current external temperature, showing 11 degrees Celsius, our instant consumption right here, our average consumption, our total mileage on the vehicle, 7 kilometers right now. Up at the top, you can see we have our current speed limit, the gear that we're in, which menu we're in, which we're going to get to in a moment. Our our lane keep assist is turned on. Lane centering and our lane keep assist is turned on. So now I'm going to use these two buttons right here to go through the different things in the center of this screen. And by the way, actually, we already talked about this, how it changes the screen when you put it into different drive modes. You can also put the screen into a night mode where everything's blackened out, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, so I'm going to use the top button first on the steering wheel, that's this guy right here, to cycle from left to right in the menus. So you can see there's 4 different menus and they light up blue when you're on them. And then the button directly below that one is toggle, and we can actually go up and down within the menu, and you can also hold this as an OK button or just press it as an OK button. So you can see it says hold OK for settings there. So first off, this screen here, this one just shows you a little bit about what the car sees around it, whether you're using adaptive cruise control or whatnot, if you're leaving your lane, if you got people in your blind spot and whatnot. This one here is just your attention level reminder system. So if this detects that you're getting tired, it's going to slowly go down, like these blue bars are going to drop. And then when it's at low, it'll suggest taking a break. Pressing that top button again takes us over to the drive info. So this is your trip computer since you started the car. So the car's now been running for 18 minutes and we haven't gone anywhere. So I can reset this by shutting the car off and turning it back on. Then we have since the last recharge, it's gone 0.1 kilometers and it's been running for 28 minutes. So if I want to reset this, I'm going to hold that OK button, and there we go. Same for the accumulated info. This is the total amount of driving this car's done, how long it's been turned on, and the average kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now, the average is going to be really high right now because it hasn't gone very far for how long it's been running. So we can reset all of this as well by holding the OK button. And then if we hit the top button again, bumps us 1 over to the compass. However, find the nearest Walmart.
Please say the line number.
2.
Would you like?
Yes. So now what's going to happen is once it's calculated, there we go, it's going to show us in this screen now our turn-by-turn directions, or our distance to the destination and the time it expects us to get there. So that's how that works. Now if I press that top button one more time, it takes us into the all-wheel drive information screen. So where power is being delivered, basically you'll see little bars show up beside each wheel, indicating how much power is going to each wheel. And if I go down one, it shows our tire pressure monitor. All right, we're going to skip the infotainment system for the moment, and we're going to move on to some other stuff. So we have over here our glove box, which is immense. It's a massive glove box, lots of space in there. And then up at the mirror here, we have just a manual mirror. There's me, hello. Above that, we have our roofline headliner control center thing. So these are individual map lights, just like that, kind of cool. And then you can also press this one to turn on all the lights, including the one in the back. We have our call for roadside assistance and call for emergency assistance, because of course it is equipped with BlueLink. For 3 years you get free BlueLink, and after that you have to pay for it, maybe. And what that is if you get into an accident, it calls emergency services for you automatically. And you can also, from your cell phone, remote start the car with the heated steering wheel on, with the temperature set to a specific temperature. You can remotely see exactly where the car is. You can find it on a map. You can unlock the doors, lock the doors, all from your cell phone. It's really, really cool. And you can put different presets in there. It has more functionality than almost every other telematic system in the industry. So it's a really, really good system. It's called BlueLink. Check it out. But anyway, you also have up here, so doors, when the doors open, lights come on, and of course each one of the visors slides out, and they each have mirrors, and they each have lights. Okay, so let's talk about this screen. So there's a lot to cover here, so this part of the video is going to take about as long as the rest of the part of the video. So first off, we can see we have buttons along the bottom here. So you got your volume control knob, which is also a button. So if I press and hold that, it shuts everything off. So I'll show you here. Just like that. If I simply press it, it turns the radio on and off, but nothing else, okay? We have the map button, which of course takes us to the map screen. The nav button takes us to the screen where you can put in an address. The media button, which allows us to choose our actual source of music. So if we press that, it goes to this screen, allowing you to see all the different current sources of music. So of that right now, you can see we have FM, AM, Sirius XM, and Sounds of Nature. This one here is a customizable button. I'm going to set that up to access the phone projections. That's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, so it's a quick way to get back in there. Our tuning toggle, it's not our knob, it's a toggle. And then of course we have our camera button here, so you can turn on the rear view camera anytime. Well, as long as you're stationary or moving forward only very, very slowly. But check this out. On your backup camera, you have nice dynamic steering lines. It's a very, very clear image, and you can even adjust the image to look straight down over the bumper, and you still keep that dynamic steering line. So a really, really nice system. If we go to the settings here, you can enable extend rear view monitor, have the rear parking lines on or off, and then change the brightness and contrast and all that stuff. We're going to leave that though. And then on the right-hand side here, what you're going to get is your backup sensor. So if you get close to an object, you'll see little sections here flashing, warning you that there's also something behind you if for whatever reason you didn't see it. And then we have our parking sensor button right here. So that just turns the parking sensors on and off. But the main event is this big infotainment system. So we're going to start on this screen, which I like to call the home screen. And basically this screen just shows you, kind of a summary of what's going on. So we have our time, current station, the battery percentage, current range till empty, and then the map over here. And then once you have BlueLink set up, you'll also see your forecast over here, because it actually tells you the weather. However, it is still functional. So if I press a specific location here, it actually brings up the screen that it references. So not completely useless. But anyway, if we slide over, now we get into the meat and potatoes of the menu. Up in the top left corner, you can see we have our driver selection. So basically you can choose which driver is driving right here. So you get driver 1, driver 2, and guest, and then just hit confirm if you want it. We're just going to leave it on driver 1 for now. But basically what that does is it remembers things like your radio presets, your dashboard lighting level, your settings for your climate control, that sort of thing. So it's just kind of a driver memory system, but it's a bit more basic than what you would get on the Ultimate, of course. Okay, then on this screen, so this is the regular home screen that you get to when you press the home button. We have our EV screen. So in here, we can see, first off, I'm going to make this full screen by hitting this little button right here. By the way, guys, this is a split screen system, so you can actually see different things on the right-hand side here. But in this screen, you can see, again, sort of a rough idea of how long you can go for in the different drive modes. If I change drive modes, obviously that's going to show up differently here as well. We have nearby chargers showing on the screen as well, how far you're going to go without your climate control turned on. And then down at the bottom here, you can see we have our next departure thing. We can actually set different departure times. Scheduled charging and climate will be activated based on departure time. The charging time may vary depending on charging stations. So basically what this is talking about is if your car is plugged in at home and you set this up to, say you leave in the morning at, I don't know, 7 o'clock every day. Sorry, I'm trying to look at my phone and the thing at the same time here. So let's say you leave 7 o'clock Monday through Friday. As long as the car is plugged in, it's going to make sure that the car is charged up by that time, well, if possible. And it's also going to turn on the, if you want to use scheduled charging, it's going to schedule the charging for peak hours, but you can also set it to turn on the climate control, and you can even tell it which temperature you want the car to be at 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to turn on the climate control and use grid power to pre-warm the cabin and the battery so that it doesn't have to use the battery power to do so. And then right over here we have V2L settings, so you can actually plug stuff into this car using a V2L adapter, and I mean like appliances. Like it's 1800 watts of available power out of the 120 volt outlet with the V2L adapter. So that's pretty cool. The adapter does come separately though. Also, I want to show you this little guy right here is a menu. You'll see that in a few different applications. If you scroll up in, well, right here you can just see it, but if you scroll up in different apps, you can actually go to user manual on web. You scan that, it'll take you to the user manual and take you right to the page that talks about that particular thing. So that's pretty cool. Also in the menu here, we have EV settings. So if we go there, we can change our max charge amount. So you can actually set it to charge to only 90%, 80% or whatever if you want. Personally, I think that's pointless. A lot of people are going to argue with me there, but you know, our batteries see so little degradation that it's almost pointless to adjust this. But if you are going to adjust this, if you do want to have this car have like next to no degradation over, you know, a 20-year period of time, drop this down to 90%. Don't put it to 80% because 90% really is something like 85-ish% or 86%. Going down to 80%, you're never actually charging up to 80%. It's always going to be below that. And that's because there is a buffer that Hyundai doesn't allow you to use. So 90% is more than enough. Trust me on that. My last Ioniq, 120,000 kilometers, showed zero signs of degradation. So whatever the degradation was, it was still within the 4% buffer. So it's probably only like 2%. But our vehicles are showing to be very, very good at staving off degradation. Anyway, we have our AC charge current, so you can reduce how fast the car charges. Now, the reason you might want to do that is if you have a power outlet that is just maybe the breaker's tripping, or maybe you're using an extension cord, which you really shouldn't be, but in a pinch, you can reduce the charging current to stop it from you know, being a dangerous situation or blowing a breaker. We have battery conditioning mode, so use during winter, low temperatures to maintain driving performance and shorten DC charging time. However, using this feature and setting the DC charging station as destination will reduce the driving range due to vehicle preparing for DC charging conditions. So this actually will precondition the battery to get it warmed up so that when you go to a DC fast charger, it'll charge as fast as it possibly can. We have utility mode, which is kind of like dog mode if you've heard of that before. So if you turn on utility mode, all of the accessories in the vehicle will continue to function, including the climate control system, but the car will be off. You wouldn't be able to drive it. So that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, you can't really lock the doors successfully when this is on unless you're in the car. So essentially what you got to do is you have to jump out of the car with the driver's window rolled down, lean into the car, lock the doors, and then pull the window switch up and get out of the window's way, and then you can use your phone to unlock the car or the physical key. We have smart regeneration, which is kind of neat. So it'll adjust regeneration automatically based on how you're driving, so you don't have to think about it. We have the charging connector lock, which you can turn on or off, or have it on all the time or only while charging so that people can't unplug your car. And we have charging voice prompts. So when you plug the car into charge, it will actually say charging started, and it'll say it very, very loud if you have it on high. So that's essentially what that is. So if you're walking away from the car and it starts charging, you'll know because it's going to tell you. We also have energy information in here, electricity use, and EV economy history. This is a great screen if you want to dispel the myths and doubts that people have about EVs. What are you going to do if you're sitting there and it's freezing cold and you're stuck in traffic for 4 hours? And you're going to basically tell them you're just going to sit there comfortably while your climate control barely uses any electricity. Look at this. It's currently using 0.4 of a kilowatt. Well, the battery in this car is 77.4 kilowatt hours, which means you could use, let's say, this 1 kilowatt of energy on a full battery for about 77 hours. Now, keep in mind that these will increase and decrease. So if I change the climate control here, you're going to notice it's actually going to go up in a bit. Here we go. So it's going to use more energy. Just take a second. I just increased the temperature to 27 degrees. It's still being very efficient. There we go. It's starting to go up slowly here. Anyway, you get the idea. So the HVAC system does not use a lot of energy. It's actually very, very little. And you can really sit there for a long time. So anyway, EV economy history shows you how much energy was used on previous trips. In the map screen, you can put it into 3D mode. You can zoom in, zoom out. Pretty straightforward stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to get into this really because honestly, you're going to want to use voice recognition for most of it. But if you want to put in an address, you go to nav, you go to search, you can type in an address there. You can go to nearby points of interest, save some places in there if you want. You can add your home address, your work address, and 3 favorites. And then all your other favorites can go into saved places. Pretty straightforward. One thing that's kind of cool though is you do have traffic information. So traffic information will be pulled from the HD radio. Sometimes it'll see traffic info, sometimes it won't. But I'm going to show you some more about HD radio in a bit because there's actually its own app there. All right. So the phone button takes you where you can place calls, search through your contacts, etc. Phone projection is your Apple CarPlay Android Auto. Voice memo, just record your voice and play it back later if you want. Climate takes you back to that screen we were looking at earlier. And by the way, the climate control screen in here is actually functional. As you can see, I can press these buttons and it actually does things. On our other Hyundais, it really isn't. So that's kind of cool. Also, you can see some climate settings on the right here as well. So auto dehumidify, smart ventilation, AC automatic drying. I love that feature. So even if the car is off, if you've had the AC on, it'll actually run the climate control fan to dry out the system. So you don't get that weird, musty, gross smell. It actually does a really good job at preventing that. The warmer screen is where we were before, so nothing to talk about there. Valet mode is if you hand the keys over to valet, it just kind of restricts access to the car. Quiet mode will shut off the rear speakers and limit the front speakers. So if you have kids sleeping in the back or whatever. Here's the HD radio data. So you can see we have our traffic information. Now, you won't always get data from HD radio, but sometimes you do. Like right now, we're not. So that just depends on the radio stations. Setup we're going to talk about in a minute. Radio, if we switch to that, you can see we have all of our presets will be here. So if I hit that add station, it puts that in for us. We can tune from here, or we can use the little tuning toggle right here. So we go up to another station here and then add station. So all of your FM, AM, and Sirius XM stations will show up in that list. You can also go to station list and it'll just kind of find whatever stations are currently working and display them there. If I go to the menu here, I can delete presets, I can tune manually to another station, I can scan, change radio noise, sound hound history. That sound hound allows you to figure out what the song is that's playing. And then you have our sound settings as well, and then user settings on the web as well. And we could turn on HD radio data for a little bit better signal. Media, again, takes you where the same thing that button did earlier. BlueLink is just your BlueLink settings, but it's also your calendar and weather. This is cool. You can link up your Google or Apple Calendar to the system so that it gives you reminders up on the screen. Weather will tell you exactly what the weather forecast is going to be today or the future forecast as well for the next week. You also have vehicle diagnostics here, maintenance, and your settings for BlueLink. Notifications, just BlueLink notifications, so we can ignore that for now. And then user manual is just the main manual on the web. You scan that and it takes you there. So let's go into setup. So under setup, we have vehicle, and this is where all of your vehicle control settings are going to be. So let's go back, or let's start here with driving convenience and some safety things here. So we have highway driver assist, highway auto speed change. Good God, we're going to turn that off. So basically what that does is it slows the car down when you're on cruise control when it detects that there's a corner coming up. I find that it's a little bit overzealous, so I turn that off. Highway drive assist basically is going to, you know, keep the distance between you and the car in front of you. It's going to keep you centered in your lane. And it's also going to adjust, assist driving on highway according to set speed and distance while keeping the vehicle centered in the lane. So essentially just going to drive somewhat for you. Not really though, you got to keep your hands on the wheel. We have our speed limit assistance, speed limit warning. Speed limit warning literally just consists of a little change in the color here, just makes it red, that's all. So that's the speed limit sign on the instrument cluster there. It'll just switch to red. You can actually change the offset though, so if you do always speed a little bit over the limit. We have our warning timing, standard or late. We have our warning method, so we have the ability to change the volume of the warning methods, and then we also have the haptic steering wheel here. So it'll vibrate the steering wheel if it detects that there's a dangerous situation, like a car in your blind spot and you got your signal on or something like that, or if you leave your lane or whatnot. We also have lane safety audible warning, which you can enable, disable. Driving safe priority lowers the volume of music when you put the car in reverse or when the car detects something near it when you're parking. And then parking safe priority, that's what does that, the parking safe priority. It lowers audio volumes when there's a warning. So if there's something in your blind spot, it'll lower the radio and then beep and shake the wheel and stuff. So lots of different ways of configuring that stuff there. They also have the driver attention warning system. Something I wish I had on my car was the inattentive driving warning, the ability to turn it off. I have it on my car as well, I just can't turn it off. The Ioniq 6 is a little different that way. We also have our leading vehicle departure alert system, which we can turn on and off. So that's when the car in front of you starts to drive off and you don't move, it'll give you a little warning prompt to prompt you to start moving, essentially. We have active autonomous emergency braking, or just warning, or just turn it off. And lane safety, we have active assistance, warning only, or turn it off. Blind spot, we have safe exit assist, where it actually will provide a warning, and door control. So if there's a car about to pass you and you've parallel parked, it'll keep the door locked in the back, not the driver's door, but the rear doors. It will keep locked until that car safely passes by. It also provides a warning and vehicle control when a risk of blind spot collision is detected, or you can just make it warning only. And then of parking safety, we have rear cross traffic alert, as well as vehicle control. So hit the brakes if you have something passing behind you when you're reversing. So very cool safety features. Under drive mode, you can see we have brake mode. We can change that from normal to sport, optimized dynamic braking, but that of course reduces your regenerative braking system. We have climate control eco mode. So again, that'll turn on when you're in eco mode on your drive mode. Actually, no, sorry. It just keeps it in eco mode all the time, regardless of the drive mode. So if you need more heat, that's where you can turn that system off. Under cluster, we have illumination, which is obvious. Cluster theme selection. So if we don't want it to change with the drive mode, but we just want to put it in one of the other color themes, we can do that. We can have it actively reset the energy consumption whenever you recharge. We can also change the content. So right now, when you change your wiper, it'll tell you on the screen which setting you're in, which obviously you'd want to keep. And then when the temperature is 4 degrees or less, you'll get a road icy warning. And we can enable and disable the welcome sound there as well. Under climate, you get the same features that we were looking at before in the climate screen. Under lights, this is where you can set your 5 flashes for your one-touch turn signal. You can also enable and disable headlight delay and high beam assist. Under door, you can change the automatic lock on, when you put the car into drive or park. And then you also have the approach unlock, the 2-press unlock, which we'll leave unchecked for now, and remote window control, because you can actually open up the windows by holding the unlock button on the key fob. Super cool. And then under convenience, here we have our rear occupant alert. So if the rear doors were open at any time, it reminds you to check the rear seats when you shut the car off. And then this also is where you can change your service interval. Okay, so that is the settings for vehicle. Navigation settings, so we have our vehicle speed. Select to always show vehicle speed on the map screen, so that's kind of cool, we can do that. We can display traffic information, which it pulls from HD radio and from BlueLink. Traffic colors, so it shows red, green, or yellow, depending on whether or not there's any traffic on the road. It's kind of like Google. We have guidance settings here as well. Camera alerts, so this is kind of interesting. Oh, can't turn that on without BlueLink. So yeah, so if there's something going on and the camera picks it up, so like a construction road sign or something like that, it'll actually tell you that there's construction ahead, things like that. We have different map modes, so I like to keep that in the 3D buildings and stuff like that, and then map view, 3D heading up north, or sorry, map heading up towards the direction you're going. So you can change all of that. We're not going to get into that too much here. All right, under sound, we have speed-dependent volume control, so that's good. Startup volume limit, which is nice. Where the sound's coming from, what the sound sounds like, and we can change our volume for guidance, alerts, that sort of thing. Radio noise, we can turn on noise reduction if we want. We can adjust our driver assistance settings from here as well, things that have to do with sound. And then, of course, our Apple CarPlay, Android Auto settings for sound. Device connection is just where you would go to connect your phone to BlueLink. I always do that. Can't hold the button. If you hold the button down, guys, you can actually you can edit the icons in the setup screen. That's what that is. User profile is where you can edit your profile. So if we go into here and let's see, we go to name, we can change the name. We can change the profile image. So there's a few images there. You can also link that to your BlueLink account, but I found that doesn't work very well, so we leave that out for now. Voice recognition, so that just allows you to reduce the amount of voice recognition prompts that come up when you use voice recognition. Screen layout, here's where you can change it all to black if you prefer, so you'll see what happens here in a moment. So it's basically reloading the system. There we go. Or you can have that do that automatically when it gets dark out. Cluster theme selection, that's what we were looking at before. Screensaver, you have analog clock or digital clock. So now if I shut the screen off, it shows as a digital clock. And split screen settings, so this is just where you can enable and disable the different things that come up in the split screen. As an example, if I turn the map on and hit the split screen thing, these are the different things that it currently shows, but we can weed that down to, you know, only the things that we want. So that's what they're talking about with split screen settings. But let's go back into screen theme layout here. I think that was the last thing. Yeah, okay. So the next thing here is display. So blue light filter, this is cool. So we can actually turn on a blue light filter so that at night it actually filters out the blue light. It's pretty cool. We have our camera settings there as well. We have our button settings, so that's for the customizable buttons, which we've already changed. BlueLink information, and then general is where we can do updates. Now, this vehicle does not have over-the-air updates yet. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's going to have over-the-air updates at all in this trim level. But here's where you could do an update using a USB flash drive. You can also change the date and time, change language, keyboard units, media options, that sort of thing. So lots of stuff in there as well. Whew, and that's pretty much it. I am out of breath. That's a lot of talking. So if this were the ultimate, this video would probably be another 10 minutes long. So there is a lot of features in this car, even though it is the lower trim of the two. But hopefully this video helped you out. If it did in any way, please hit subscribe. I'm on my way to 20,000 subscribers. Your 1 second of work by hitting subscribe it makes an immense amount of difference for me. So if you could do that, that would be great. Just remember, I just put in a couple of hours of work for you for this video. You're watching this video, so hopefully it's helpful. So all I'm asking is for you to do one click, please. It would make the world a difference if everyone did it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to leave them below. I do also try to respond to everyone. So yeah. Well, I'm tired. Thanks for watching. Take care.